It's the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Joe DiBiase of the Locked On Sabres podcast. ButcherBox has all you need for a tasty, stress-free holiday season. This Black Friday, your search for amazing deals on high-quality protein ends with ButcherBox. They're offering their best deal of the year. Choose your free steak for a year. Choose between 2 New York strip steaks, filet mignons, or ribeyes to get free in every box for a whole year when you join. Sign up today at butcherbox.com/NHL and use the code NHL to choose your free steak for a year and get $20 off. That's butcherbox.com/NHL. Use the code NHL to get this special Black Friday deal plus $20 off.
Oh, baby, we're back. The dynamic duo has returned for all of your fantasy hockey needs on the Thursday edition of the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Podcast. We're breaking down all of the top news from around the NHL that's affecting your fantasy squads. Tage Thompson, a trio of Calgary Flames on the trade block. And what do you do with the red-hot Sidney Crosby? Tap in, tune in, and find out. Let's get this paper.
You're Locked On Fantasy Hockey, your daily podcast on fantasy hockey. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is going on, everybody, and welcome back inside the lab to your source for fantasy hockey news and daily degenerate gambling breakdowns. It's the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Podcast, and I am privileged to be joined by my esteemed co-host, Mr. Steel Roden. On this side of the microphone, it's your boy, Big Flip Livingstone, and thank you for making us your first listen every single day. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Steel, I feel like we've hit this little bit of a rut in the road for certain GMs at this point in the season. Things may not be going so well. You might be down in the dumps. Don't fade out. Tap in, tune into the pod, and make sure you're up to date on all of this news. We're going to start with Tage Thompson. You and I have talked a lot about this player over the last couple of years, the Buffalo Sabres, and now we're going to have to talk about an opportunity here in that top six for a hole to be filled by a very good offensive piece. We'll break that down. The Calgary Flames. This has been one of the most difficult teams to watch, Steel, and honestly, just follow along with news. And now, only a couple of weeks after Noah Hanifin almost signing a mega extension, we got calls for Hanifin and all of these other UFAs, including Lindholm and Tanev and Sidney Crosby. You know I love talking about number 87. Hat trick the other night. I want to talk about a little bit of how he got that hat trick, how he can still get it done. And what do you do with him as a long-term fantasy GM in the Keeper Dynasty realm, Steel? Turning it right over to you. You know we're going to wrap up with bets. Let's talk about this Tage Thompson injury because it's week to week. It's a significant injury, and I don't know if you saw how banged up this guy was in that game. He got cut by McAvoy. He got hit in the hand with a shot by McAvoy. Right now, he's out week to week. What's your take on this situation?
Yeah, you know, that first period or early on awkward fall just looked very weird to me. You know, it didn't look like much, but he goes down and immediately starts grabbing, looked like his ankle or shin area, and was struggling to get off the ice. He was actually able to battle through that first injury in the first period.
He got cut.
Got cut, yeah, and then he comes back. He battled through that and blocks that shot on the wrist, hand area from Charlie McAvoy again. So it was really that second injury that Granato said is going to keep Tage Thompson out for a significant amount of time. And looking at, you know, going back to my preseason predictions of the Buffalo Sabres and where they were going to fall at the end of the regular season, I was completely wrong. I'm now at the point where the Sabres are going to miss the playoffs this season. Devin Levi has not looked like the guy I thought he was going to be. Again, only 7 games played so far this season. Tage Thompson started off pretty rough to begin the season, got back to NHL form later on, but now he's out for significant time. Jeff Skinner's been great. Casey Middlestat's been very impressive up in the lineup as well. But other guys like Dylan Cousins, Alex Tuck, you know, even Rasmus Dahlin to a certain degree haven't been up to par from what we expected and what we've seen from them over the last year and a half. So for me, with this significant injury to Tage Thompson, it's going to be detrimental to fantasy GMs out there who hold him.
Yes.
It's also going to be detrimental for the Buffalo Sabres season moving forward, because this is the guy of their future after an incredible season last year. Obviously just skyrocketed in the fantasy realm of things, and it's going to be tough for the Sabres moving forward.
This is one of those spots, Steele, that now there's opportunity for some players on this team. And when you look at the shuffling of the lines already from practice today, Casey Middlestat is going to take that number one center role with JJ Peterka up on that right wing. I wrote a column earlier today for Dauber Hockey. Go check that out, by the way. JJ Peterka is one of those players, though, Steele, that, the combination of Greenway, Middlestat, and Peterka might not pan out. But I'm really taking a look at some of these pieces now. We know the Sabres team can score goals, and that's been one of their problems. Last year, they were in the top 5 in scoring. I think they were top 3. And the power play was clicking, and now all of a sudden they're out of the top half of the league in both of those categories. We know that this confidence from this club comes from their offensive ability, and that is going to play into the ability of Devin Levi, Rasmus Dahlin on the blue line to do their thing if the guys up front aren't getting it done. Tage Thompson, 6 goals, 6 assists. He's turned it around a little bit. Regardless, it's going to be a hole you have to fill. 50-plus shots, almost 20 minutes a night in ice time. That second line, though, Steele, Dylan Cousins slides into the middle, and Zach Benson, who has been hurt, might get a little look here. I have Zach Benson stashed as a young player. He's got a high motor. I really like what's going on with this kid's game. He's not the one I'm looking at big time. It's going to be the 2 guys up the middle that get that love in Middlestat and Dylan Cousins. But I think you made the most important point of this entire situation. Yeah, I just gave you the fantasy angle. But how about what this means for the Buffalo Sabres in the standings? You and I went back and forth on our predictions for the Atlantic Division. I had the Sabres missing out in favor of the Florida Panthers and other teams. Still early, and they're only 4 points back, Steele. But you can't help but feel this might be one of those injuries that turn the tide in Buffalo. Even when he's not on his game, he is that important piece for Buffalo.
Super important piece. And without him, I honestly don't see where the Buffalo Sabres go from here. I know Patrick Kane is actually talking to teams right now. He had a meeting with the Toronto Maple Leafs earlier yesterday. Buffalo Sabres could be in the realm of things as well. So maybe they go out and try to fill that position, move things around for Patrick Kane to come in into the lineup for the Buffalo Sabres, and again, move those players around to fill that spot for Tage Thompson. But when you lose a player of his ability and capability, like you're seeing right now on YouTube with the graphic here, 6 goals, 6 assists, 52 shots on net, obviously compared to last season, obviously a little bit of a down year to begin in the first month and a half. But when you lose a player of this caliber, it's going to affect your team. And especially when you have a rookie goaltender and Devin Levi coming in, not really comfortable with his game right now. And everyone's just trying to figure everything out at the same time. So losing him is going to be terrible for the Sabres.
Check out Monday's waiver wire episode if you're not looking at the in-house options at Dylan Cousins and Casey Middlestat to perhaps put that Band-Aid on. You're not letting go of Tage Thompson. Let's be clear. You're stashing him. He's going to be back. Week to week is a significant injury, and that's why we're talking about it. But you are not letting go of this player just yet. And I know, actually, Steele, you and I have mentioned this. Throughout 145 games to start his career, he had 18 goals. Over the last 150 plus games, he's got about 80 goals plus. So this is a player that came in slow and is now gone on fire. Yeah. But you're not letting him go just yet. Don't let go of us on this episode just yet, because right around the break, right after I get the belching out of the way, excuse me on that one, we're going to have to talk about this Calgary Flames situation, Steele, because my goodness, does it really stink? I'm calling it a dumpster fire out west for both Edmonton and Calgary. Now all of a sudden Edmonton's winning games, so I think there's a fire burning in Calgary. No pun intended. Sidney Crosby. You know I got a take on this, Steele. You know I'm fired up to talk about number 87. Big time bets for Thursday's board. I believe we have 9 games. Can't wait to sink our teeth into that. And you shouldn't be waiting at all to download the Game Time app, because today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. You never want to be rushing around getting a frustrating experience when you're buying tickets for your favorite event. It should be a no-worry situation, and that's what it is with Game Time. Fast and easiest way to buy tickets for all the sports, music, comedy, and theater events near you with killer last-minute deals, all-in prices, views from your seat, and the best price guarantee. Game Time takes the guesswork out of buying tickets. You want to make sure you're checking out the Game Time app. Steele and I have used it for all kinds of NHL games, good deals, zone deals. Pick the section, pick the seats for an average of $18 of savings with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed.
Hey everyone, Chris from Locked On Avalanche here. If you like using debit over credit, I just learned about something that's definitely a game changer. Discover Cashback Debit. It's a checking account that rewards everyone with cash back on everyday purchases, which means you can get cash back on NHL tickets or head-to-toe hockey gear to make this season a total win. Check out eligibility and terms at discover.com/cashbackdebit. Discover Bank, member FDIC.
And thank you so much for making the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Podcast your first listen every single day. We have special news on the Locked On Podcast Network. Locked On has launched the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube. Locked On Sports Today is here for you 24/7, covering the top sports stories of the day with local experts of the Locked On, plus our national shows covering every league. Go to Locked On Sports Today on YouTube and subscribe to the channel, to the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel. Absurd that this is the first 24/7 streaming channel ever. Locked On for the W, for the win. It's the best podcast network out there. Make sure you hit the subscribe, the follow button, 5-star review. We appreciate all that love and support you show us every single day. And probably a team that needs some love and support right now in this, like you said, dumpster fire of a season so far are the Calgary Flames. Both teams, honestly, in Alberta, but Edmonton seem to be figuring out now with the coaching change.
True.
The Calgary Flames, like you said, it seems like the for sale sign is finally up in Calgary, and they're taking calls left, right, and center to figure out who's staying, who's going, and what the future is going to look like for Calgary.
It's just hilarious, Steele, because 6 weeks ago, we're hearing Noah Hanifin might sign a mega deal.
$60 million was what I was hearing too.
Yeah, 50 or 60 million. Then it comes out that all deals are on hold. They're not talking to any player. They're not talking extension. They're not talking anything. And then a couple of weeks later, it's almost like a fire sale. Before I get into that, though, number one, Connor Zary has really been impressing me. And I've tried to go out there and get him in that keeper dynasty side of things. He's made me pay attention. So maybe pay attention to him, jot him down in the notes, double circle that one. Quick sidebar. This lineup up top is a mess. They lost Tyler Toffoli for Igor Sharangovich. He's on the fourth line still. This team is a mess. You got Zadorov calling out his club. You've got Elias Lindholm, who's supposed to be the number one guy. Nazem Kadri is struggling. We know about Jonathan Huberdeau. This is a bit of an SHIT show. That's how I would break this one down in Calgary, number one. And number two, talking about these three players, this is where the fantasy angle comes into play here. Because if Elias Lindholm or Noah Hanifin, I understand Chris Tanev, sure, deep banger leagues, dynasty, maybe. Noah Hanifin and Elias Lindholm Steele, if they get moved, I want to know exactly where, because I might be pulling the trigger on a deal. If Elias Lindholm goes to a competitor or a winner, he immediately rockets up the fantasy charts in value, and I want a piece. Same goes with Noah Hanifin, and I know he's been a little bit of an up-and-down guy considering he was such a high draft pick. I think the same thing is applicable here. If he goes to a winner, I'm taking a double look at Noah Hanifin as a guy to go after down the stretch, because realistically, Steele, and when you look at these numbers, their goal differential is now worse than the Edmonton Oilers. We got to be looking at this team selling off some pieces, and sooner than later.
I think all of those players skyrocket up the fantasy board as well if they were to be moved. You know, Craig Conroy in his first year as GM for the Calgary Flames has to be the most popular GM right now, as he's taking, phone calls. Yeah, he's getting calls right now on all of it. And like you said, they've held those negotiations off because of what's going on with the Flames organization right now. For me, the Zadorov requesting a trade last Friday in that loss against the Maple Leafs was just the tip of the iceberg. Like I said, they're taking calls on every single pending UFA that is tradable right now. Chris Tanev, Zadorov, Hanifin, Elias Lindholm, and it seems like three teams that are the primary teams most interested in one of those defensemen, not, exclude Elias Lindholm, just the three defensemen we mentioned are the Vancouver Canucks, Toronto Maple Leafs, and New Jersey Devils.
Correct.
I would absolutely love to see the Toronto Maple Leafs trade John Klingberg for Nikita Zadorov. I think Nikita Zadorov is exactly what the Leafs need on the blue line right now. And honestly, I really like Zadorov's game. For a 6'6", 250-pound defenseman, he can move his feet pretty quickly, jump up in the plays. You look at last year, he had 14 goals and 7 assists, which is all crazy that the goals was such a large number for Zadorov, but he actually does jump into the play. He
brings some fantasy value for sure.
And he can finish those opportunities as well. He brings the hits, he brings the penalty minutes, he brings a decent amount of shots and blocks on net. And if he can continue bringing 20 plus points a season, I think that's exactly what the Toronto Maple Leafs need. I think the Vancouver Canucks could use a player like Chris Tanev or Noah Hanifin as well to really juice up their blue line as well. Obviously, the Devils would just be trying to add more depth onto the blue line if they wanted to add one of these players. But to me, I would love acquiring Nikita Zadorov and pairing Connor Timmins with him and being that third D pair, because that would be beautiful.
If they do go after Zadorov, I really don't think Klingberg is going to be enough to pry him off of Calgary's plate. It's going to
there's got to be negotiations for sure. But I think Klingberg has to go. Like,
what I have to fully agree with, though, is Zadorov's game would fit into the mold of exactly what Toronto needs on that back end. A little bit more youth, and I know he's not young, but he has
28, so he's fine.
He has the ability to eat minutes. They need that, and they need a little bit more sandpaper on that back end. Look, when Mark Giordano, no disrespect to a 58-year-old man still playing in the NHL still, you know me on celebrating his birthday every couple of weeks. He shouldn't be the guy answering the bell against that Joshua kid the other night. He
looked exhausted in the first 10 seconds.
Lucky he didn't get his you-know-what pushed in, because that's a big lad, and Mark Giordano is, in all seriousness, in the twilight of his career and shouldn't be the guy answering the bell.
No.
So, quick side note, Toronto Maple Leafs basically could take any defenseman off of another team right now and probably improve defensively because of how poor they've been. But let me just wrap it up with this, because if you're taking a look at what this Calgary Flames team has on paper right now, and you're Craig Conroy up front, I can't help but feel that every single player of value, aside from the young pieces, even guys like Zary and, Mangiapane perhaps, maybe even your boy, who was the kid we were all over at the start of this year, Steele, who hasn't played very much. Anyway, these are the pieces that'll probably stick around. Otherwise,
Coronado from the Flames?
Coronado, that's it. My bad. Coronado, I was for some reason confusing him with Frankie Coronado. Anyway, Flames are going to be a fire sale. I really do think, no pun intended. And that's when you can pounce on some of these names that are going to be going out the door. Hey, somehow they're not moving Huberdeau. That contract is crazy. No. Kadri's not going anywhere, but Lindholm and the other two that we've been talking about will for sure be in the mix on the move. We're on the mix on the move to continue to talk about one of my favorite players in the NHL, Steele. We might trickle in after the break about Sid, but all I got to say is, and I love saying this, Crosby continues to cook. And if you did not see his 16th hat trick of his career the other night, he got it done in all aspects. I know his third goal was a empty netter.
Yeah.
But if you saw the first goal he scored, it isn't a fluke that he shoots from these angles and they find these spots. Run back the tape over his entire career.
What about the second goal, though?
I'm going to get there, Steele. Trust me. The first goal is a sneaky good move from a guy who knows exactly where to shoot the puck.
Yeah.
And then you see his hands and his ability to find the areas that good goal scorers find, Steele. He's one of the best in the business to do this ever. And his hands with that tip-in goal are proving to me that he still has some of the best hands in the game. Is the foot speed going? Sure. But I'll leave you to this conversation and hit me with your take on this because, again, I wrote about this earlier today and I said this. You could get a huge return for Sidney Crosby right now. Number one, his name, and number two, he is going off. So I understand that given where you're at in your league and your format, it might actually serve you better to move on from Sid and go to the forward, try and play in the future here because you're going to get a ton for him. However, if you're even within striking distance, and this is me, Steele, Crosby is not going anywhere off my roster until I see a slight regression. He's 36 and heating up somehow, Steele. That's my take. For me, if you're in striking distance, Sid isn't going anywhere. But if maybe you're tanked out in a keeper dynasty and you're already in a rough shape to start the year, get yourself some young pieces and move on from a guy who is on fire right now.
That's why they call him the kid. He is the ageless wonder, the eighth wonder of the world. It seems like he just gets better and better every single year. And like you said, 36 years old, getting his 16th career hat trick in the NHL. It's absurd that he continues to do this. He's top 25 in fantasy hockey points right now. He's got 19 points on the season, 10 goals, 54 shots on net. He's great in all the peripheral stats. He's got 13 hits, 10 penalty minutes. He's getting power play points. He's doing it all for you. And he's got He's got one game-winning goal so far this season in 14 games. Sidney Crosby, every time we talk about some of the best players in the world, Connor McDavid, Austin Matthews, Leon Draisaitl, Nathan McKinnon, obviously those top four are always in the conversation. Every time it seems like they're creeping up a little bit ahead, Sidney Crosby just sneaks his way back into that conversation.
Yeah.
He is a top 5 player in the NHL right now because of what he does every single day for the Pittsburgh Penguins. I don't even care about Cale Makar or Nate, all these other players, Quinn Hughes, Jack Hughes, all these young players that we've been talking about for a long time. We can't forget about the best player right now as well, Sidney Crosby for the Penguins, because he gets it done everywhere.
And I think it's a very clear point that, you could make arguments about fantasy value. But I think what you and I are talking about right now is quality on ice in terms of getting your team over that hump. He's carrying this team again, Steele, and say what you will about the Pittsburgh Penguins. The only reason that they're still alive is because of Sidney Crosby, mainly. I know Malkin's been pretty good. I know that Jari has picked it up a little bit, but you know what I'm saying here. Also, back to fantasy, he's been filling out those peripherals this year, Steele. 13 hits, 10 penalty minutes, 50-plus shots on net. Let's give some respect to, seriously, one of the best all-around players in the game, 3-time Cup winner, 3-time Pearson winner, 2-time Richard winner, 2-time Hart winner, and I'm just getting started on that list of illustrious career awards. We're not getting done yet, though, on today's episode, are we, Steele? Because we even got graphics for it. If you're not checking out these graphics, people, tap into YouTube. We got our bets coming right up.
And who knows, maybe even Flip has an anytime Crosby assist for Thursday night. We'll have to check out when we get to big time bets. That's coming up very, very soon. But this episode is also brought to you by, FanDuel. Score early this NFL season with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 moneyline bet. That's $150 in bonus bets if your team wins. And if you've been thinking about joining FanDuel, which Flip and I both urge you to do so because it's the best sports betting app on the market right now, there's no better time to get into the action. The app is so easy and secure to use. There's a wide range of betting options, including spreads, player props, over-unders, and, of course, the same game parlays where Flip and I make most of our money out there on FanDuel app.
True.
So visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and kick off the NFL season. That's FanDuel.com/lockedon. FanDuel, official partner of the NFL.
This is David Harrison of the Locked On Commanders podcast to draw your attention to the taste that's going down in the bread aisle. All thanks to Dave's Killer Bread, bread amplified. Anyone can bake bread, few can rock it, and Dave's Killer Bread is the champion of killer taste, killer texture, and is for those who want to rise above the boring. Organic and healthy doesn't have to mean boring when it's made with the highest quality organic and non-GMO ingredients, packed with whole grains, fiber, and protein. 21 whole grains and seeds bread has a subtle sweetness and a seed-coated crust, while good seed products are the boldest and sweetest of all. Dave's Killer Bread was built on the belief that second chances can change lives, because after spending 15 years in prison, not only did the guy with the guitar you see on every loaf turn his own life around, he's helping others to do the same. By hiring the best people for the job, regardless of their background, he's ensuring your mornings no longer taste like cardboard, your taste buds don't have to feel sedated, and your sandwiches can become superstars. Visit daveskillerbread.com to learn more and look for Dave's Killer Bread in the bread aisle of your favorite grocery store.
And thank you so much for making the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Podcast your first listen every single day. We appreciate all that love and support you show us. Make sure you continue to hit the subscribe, leave a follow button, leave a 5-star review. Again, we appreciate all that love and support you show us. We're almost at 1,300 subs. We're almost there. Hopefully we can get there to begin December, and hopefully we'll get to 1,500 by the new year. That would be an amazing goal to reach for, to strive for, Flip. So let's try to get out. Let's push all that content. Let's push it for 1,500 by the new year. Would absolutely love to see that. But what we would also love to see are some of these picks, some of these bets to hit Thursday night. Like you said, 9 games on the betting board. Flip, yes, I'm going to throw it over to you. What are your 3 picks for Thursday night?
Well, Steele, it's been a little bit of a rough ride trying to organize all these picks. We got a lot of picks flying around here. We got a lot of graphics flying around. But let me just kick it off with this. This is a tough coin flip game that I think we are both betting on. So I want to start with our side bet action, which I think is on the way here. Arizona, Columbus. Look, Johnny Gaudreau has 6 shots in his last 6 games combined.
Yeah.
He has 1 goal this year, Steele. What is going on with a guy that 2 years ago was a plus 49 with 115 points? I'm not ready to blame all of the ill wills of this Columbus team on Johnny Gaudreau, a Columbus team who has 6 straight losses and 9 of their last 10. I know the angle you're going to get here, and I respect it. Arizona, the head-to-head also favors Columbus, I believe, if I look at it correctly, over their last 10, 6-3-1 for Columbus. So I understand the angle. I'm just also looking at the games that the Arizona Coyotes have recently played. Even when they're losing, 4-3 to Dallas, close. 2-1 to St. Louis, close. 5-4 to Winnipeg, close. And other than that, they've been winning games. Anaheim, 4-3. So what I wanted to do in this situation was probably cop out and do the plus 1.5 on the puck line. But I'm going money line, baby. Give me the Arizona Coyotes on the money line against the Blue Jackets at that minus 108 odds, Steele. It's going to be a close one, though.
It is going to be a close one. And honestly, there was a lot of different things I went into this pick for me, which is why I suggested the Blue Jackets on the money line against the Coyotes, our second side bet of the season, by the way.
Thank you.
For me, there were multiple reasons. Like you said, the Blue Jackets 6-3-1 in their last 10 against the Coyotes. But also, there was a little bit of a trend right there where it was like they lost the last 2. They won the 2 before that. They lost the 2 before that. It was a little bit of a trend there with 2 losses, 2 wins, 2 losses, 2 wins. So I'm going to go with the Blue Jackets at home. Plus, I saw that Fantilli post-game that was interesting right there. Interesting to see. He hates losing. Obviously, everyone hates losing out there, but the Blue Jackets at home, they're going to need to change things up really fast if they want even to get back into the, get back into the race for this playoff. I know we're only in November, but still, it's looking bad for the Columbus Blue Jackets. They need a big win, and it's the Arizona Coyotes that they really need to play right now at home to get them juiced up. So that's the first pick. That is the side bet. Let's go to my lock of the night.
Are we let's put a 10-piece on that for fun?
Yeah, every side bet this year is a 10-piece on it. We'll get.
What we should do, Steele? We should do something charitable as well.
Yes.
We'll figure that out after the show, but whoever ends up winning some loot, we'll put a little money towards something good. It's November. Maybe it's even Men's Health. You and I will do something good with that.
100%. That is the best idea I've ever heard from you, Flip. Great suggestion there. Definitely give back. We'll have to see what the profit is at the end of the regular season. And
it might not be.
Then.
Yeah, we'll figure that out. But the point is, we're gonna do something good with it. But anyway, back to you, my friend.
Senators, Red Wings over 6.5 is my lock of the night. The Global Series continues this week with 4 NHL teams over in Sweden. There's many Swedish natives getting to play in front of their homeland, their friends and families. The Maple Leaf, Senators, Red Wings, and Minnesota Wild are over in Sweden right now. And the Senators, Red Wings, I'm going with the over 6.5. 7 of the last 10 have gone over the number, and they're going to give all of their friends and families and the people from Sweden a great show with these NHL hockey clubs. So Senators, Red Wings kicking it off. Thursday, I believe at 2 p.m. Eastern time.
Yep.
Over 6.5 is my lock of the night, and it's going to be a great show.
I love that, Steele. And what's interesting is when you look at some of these international games, like per se with the NBA and NFL, when they have to go and play at different places, majority of those lineups, especially in the NFL, are all American for a very few exceptions. A lot of these teams, Detroit, even Toronto, of course, Ottawa, lots of Swedes. They're comfortable going home. They're fired up. Those barns, by the way, that they play in too in Sweden. I don't care what time of day they're going. It's rocking. So I'm not – usually I say, what's the word when they're playing? A mutual site. I like going under. This is not the case, and I'm with you 100%. It's not my lock of the night. It was close, but I'll keep that explanation short and sweet because you already explained it very nicely. How about Connor Bedard?
Yeah.
We haven't bet on a Connor Bedard player prop. I haven't anyway. I know you have. I got to dive in because not only has the kid been flexing his muscle lately, 4 goals in his last 2 games, 6 goals over his last 5. He just hung a 4-piece of points on this very same Tampa Bay Lightning team, Steele. So hit me with that Connor Bedard anytime point. We don't have the odds just yet. It's fluctuating. Go out there and get yourself the best one. Steele and I's locks of the night have been hitting. Go out there and slap our locks of the night on a parlay. Bedard anytime assist. Also, if you haven't been paying attention, this Tampa Bay Lightning team is straight up poo-poo right now. They got shut out in back-to-back games for the first time in a long, long time. You talked about Jonas Johansson the other night being overworked probably and just underperforming and probably a must-drop as well, Steele.
Yeah.
So I'm going with the Connor Bedard angle. I don't know if Tampa Bay wakes up in this one, so I don't want to get too spicy on who wins this one, but I have a feeling it's high scoring, and I have a feeling Connor Bedard gets his lock of the night. Bedard anytime assist.
Love that pick as well. My final pick for Thursday night is a player prop 2. Gensel anytime goal. Obviously, the Penguins and Devils face a lot of each other throughout the season, every single year. Through Gensel's career, he has 11 goals and 16 assists for a total of 27 points in 28 games against those New Jersey Devils. That is my last pick of the night. Gensel anytime goal. And of course, like I said, lock of the night, Senators, Red Wings over 6.5.
Love it, Steele. Hey, let's try and keep this money rolling. It is a tough time of the season to bet. We're really still getting a feel for a number of these teams. Take a look at some of the clubs like Vancouver going on heaters. Remember the time of year. Remember that there's a lot of hockey left. Tap in. Just ride with the locks of the night right now, Steele. Maybe just chuck a couple of bucks on that. Build that bankroll up slow, people, and let's get this money.
Get the money is what we're trying to do. And thank you so much for making the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Podcast your first listen every single day. And again, Locked On has launched the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube. Make sure you go over there and subscribe to the Locked On Sports Today on YouTube, to the first ever national sport 24/7 streaming channel with local experts on Locked On, plus the national shows covering every single league. Thank you so much again for tuning in for today's episode with Flip and I. Have a great day. Good luck with all your bets out there, and we shall see you back here again tomorrow.
Peace.
Joe DiBiase of the Locked On Sabres podcast. ButcherBox has all you need for a tasty, stress-free holiday season. This Black Friday, your search for amazing deals on high-quality protein ends with ButcherBox. They're offering their best deal of the year. Choose your free steak for a year. Choose between 2 New York strip steaks, filet mignons, or ribeyes to get free in every box for a whole year when you join. Sign up today at butcherbox.com/NHL and use the code NHL to choose your free steak for a year and get $20 off. That's butcherbox.com/NHL. Use the code NHL to get this special Black Friday deal plus $20 off.
JamesAllen.com is the online destination to easily design a customized engagement ring and save up to 50% compared to traditional stores. You pick a diamond, whether it's lab-created or earth-created. James Allen has over 200,000 conflict-free stones. Then you pick your ring setting and metal. And if you need some help, they have real-time diamond consultations available where an expert can walk you through it all. Get 25% off your order at JamesAllen.com, code LOCKEDON. That's JamesAllen.com, code LOCKEDON.